A very good evening, everybody listening. I hope from all over the world. Welcome here at the account of the Black Impact Foundation. My name is Barbara Barend from the Netherlands, and I'll be joined by people from all over the world, from the Netherlands, from Africa, from Sweden. And we're here to talk. Well, we all know we're in a tremendous crisis with the invasion of Russia and Ukraine. And we're here tonight especially to talk about how to get people of color out of Ukraine. We're going to be discussing what's going on right now. Like we all know, we have millions of refugees at the moment fleeing from Ukraine to find a safer space in this world. But unfortunately, there's things going wrong. There's double standards, and there's really problems to get a certain people out of the Ukraine, and that's the people of color, and that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. And we've seen quite a few people and quite a few organizations in these last days trying to get attention for this. We've seen Prashant Agrawal, we've seen Clarence Seedorf, we have seen the Black Impact Foundation. We've seen Black Women for Black Lives, all kinds of organizations that are trying to tell this story, share this story, make the world aware of what's going on this great tragedy, and what can we do about it? How can we solve this? How can we get the people out safely? And that's what we are gonna be talking about. Let me see who are here already, because we're going to be talking about with Prashant Agrawal, NJ Ayuk, and with Clarence Seedorf. And I see Prashant and NJ are already here. I'm going to accept you guys to get in. And let me see. Are you in right now? Yes. Prashant, I have accepted you.
Hi, dear Barbara.
Hi. Now I'm going to try to accept the other ones. Yep. NJ is also there. We're waiting on Clarence. Guys, if you admit me, I'm going to post for the people that are joining us what we are going to do here. So that people know what we are doing. Yes, here we are. Get people of color out of Ukraine. That is what we are talking about. Well, thank you for joining us. Let me see if Clarence Seedorf is already there. No, I see Natasha. She's wanting to join, but actually we're still waiting on Clarence to join. Welcome already, Prashant. You're one of the leading one of Sweden's one of the world's largest EPC companies in Sweden, called Cerneke. You're Indian Swede, if I have it right. And right now you play a big role in evacuating lots of people from the Ukraine. We also have NJ Ayuk, a lawyer and a board member of the Black Impact Foundation and African Energy Chamber. And you're there joining us from Africa to also speak about this topic. And there's Clarence. It's possible Clarence is also joining us. Are you there, Clarence? Yes.
Yes, hello. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Clarence. I have already started. We see people joining. I've been telling what we're going to talk about. We have a tremendous crisis going on with the horrible invasion of Russia and Ukraine. Lots of refugees, but specifically, and well, I don't know if we have to distinguish, but a great crisis also with getting people of color out of Ukraine. We're having very, very sad stories, what's going on there. I already introduced the other speakers, Prashant and NJ. I will introduce you as well. You might not need an introduction. You're one of the most famous soccer players in the world. You won the most Champions Leagues. You've been an international of the Netherlands. player of Milan, coach of Milan, but you're also a human rights advocate. And I think that's the reason, Clarence, why you are joining us tonight and why we are speaking about this topic. And I have to admit, my name, by the way, I'm sorry, my name is Barbara Barend. I'm a sports journalist from the Netherlands. I know Clarence for a long time. Actually, as little boys and girls, we played each other because I played on the boys team. So we know each other from really way back. And we've spoken lots of times. And I think what connects is that we both are human rights advocates. And that's where we find each other. And I have to say, I read some articles lately, but also because of you, Clarence, but you stated what was going on. It really got my attention. So I want to first start with you, Clarence. If you have to explain, I see lots of people already joining us from all over the world, and that's really, really good to see. Thank you all for joining us here on this topic. I'm going to repeat myself sometimes so we all know what we're speaking about. Get people of color out of the Ukraine. Clarence, what are we talking about right now? What is the situation?
Well, first of all, thank you, Barbara, for supporting us, and of course, Brother Prashant and Brother NJ here. And we have a few sisters that would have joined us as well, who are on the ground doing amazing work. First of all, and most important, is that we want all people to come out of Ukraine safely and be supported after they have been evacuated, of course. And there are still millions of people waiting. Today I had a conversation with Shevchenko, and he told me a little bit from his side what he's facing. You know, millions of Ukrainian people who are at the border waiting to be able to cross the border. And you know, we really wish them to have success in that, and to be able to find that support that is waiting for them after. We have faced in the last week some issues that became louder and louder. Is that there was certain discrimination going on for people of color to get on trains, to get on buses, and to get across the border, because you have lines on the border, then people would be sent back practically into the city. And of course, you know, that is something that cannot be accepted, especially, it can never be accepted, but less in times of war. So our efforts here is to create awareness that we need to give everybody the same opportunity to get out of the country, and then also get the same treatment once they're out, because also there, so it's not something that we're pointing fingers to Ukrainian people, because not everybody is the same. It's always a small group of people that maybe misrepresent, you know, the larger group of people. I have a lot of friends from Ukraine. I have a lot of friends from Russia. Practically they're all victims, but we need to make sure that we can protect those who don't have a voice and give them a voice. And that's what we are aiming to do with the campaign we just started with Black Impact Foundation.
Thank you, Clarence. So later on, I will be asking you a bit more of examples to give, but let's go to you, Prashant. I already introduced you. You're one of the biggest industrial, you lead a big industrial company, one of the largest in the world, but yet at the moment you have a complete other role. Right now, you're for one night in Sweden, but where have you been these last weeks?
I've been spending my time in Poland. More than a week. I was traveling out in the world. I was in Africa, in Egypt and Ghana for our projects over there, and that time the war had not started, so I took a break. I was in Thailand enjoying my personal time, and then suddenly on 24th of February we hear that the war has started, and this is the crisis which is happening. I come back home, and there is a stress call coming from a friend explaining that his sister is stuck in Ukraine, and it's when I try to find out that how many people are stuck, I'm shocked that there are approximately 20,000 Indians who were stuck. And we tried to find out and do some more research. and there were approximately 80,000 students in Ukraine, because Ukraine has been a hub or a center for one of the largest medical universities, and there are people not only from India, but the two populations which are the maximum in Ukrainian student community is the Indians and the Africans. These are the two largest, and together they are close to more than 45,000 in sheer numbers when we talk about just numbers. So these all students were spread across Sumy, which is more closer to the Ukrainian Russian border, and the other students were stuck in Kharkiv, which is the other area which has been facing some direct shelling and attack. And there is another area called Mariupol and Kherson. These are some of the places where the students are, and where the universities are located. And of course, it was quite, I would say that it wasn't easy for us. First, we just had to analyze what the situation is, what are we facing, because at least since I was born, I mean, I've never seen this kind of war in my life. Even though in my home country there has been issues on the border, there are problems, but we have never witnessed a live war in our lifetime, you know. And being grown up in Europe, you would never hear the word that there is war in Europe, you know. I mean, this is a very far-fetched idea or understanding, and to witness something and trying to put yourself into this situation is unimaginable. But I spoke to my friends here in Sweden as well as in Poland. I have some kind of extended family there as well in Poland, and I said, let me go there and try to visit, and what kind of resources we could mobilize on ground and what we could do. So the first thing which we did was we started contacting the embassy. The first call I did was to the Foreign Secretary of India, and we started asking questions that what is really happening over there, and what kind of control do we have. And of course, the embassy was assessing the situations. And then I got in contact with the ambassador of India in Sweden, who put me in touch with the ambassador over there in Poland, in Warsaw, as well as the ambassador in Ukraine as well. And we started analyzing the situation. What do we need to, you know, and the ground situation was like this. Since there was firing and bombarding happening from both sides, the situation inside Ukraine, when you talk about the situation, there is no food, there is no water. The third biggest challenge what you face inside Ukraine is there is no fuel at all. There is no petrol, there is no diesel. And as a matter of fact, even if there are vehicles, they are useless, because there is no means you can drive any of these vehicles and go across the border. I mean, because you face two challenges. First, you don't have fuel to drive this vehicle. Second is there is continuous firing happening from all sides, so you are not safe. And the only option left with most of these students, or many of these, were to go by walk, and that's the only situation. And the most heartbreaking news comes to us that one Indian student has died because he took the bravery act. He tried to go to a local store by walk, and he was standing to buy some groceries for his university mates, just one kid. And unfortunately, he came, I mean, his fate was written on this bullet. I mean, he succumbed the bullet and he died on spot. And that was very disturbing. This kind of shook the entire community. And I would say this sent, there was of course, there was good work by some people like you, Barbara, some journalists who picked up this, and they started creating a global news, and they brought the focus that these are the students, not just Indians, but there are Africans, there are Vietnamese, there are students from all over the world who are stuck in universities like these, and they are being helpless because they are not able to have access to electricity. They were not having access to food. They were not having access to water. And I called Brother Clarence and I told him that I need help. If you can call Shevchenko and ask him if we could get in some local volunteers. So that is how we first started picking up bits and pieces. We started connecting with some local Ukrainians who were active inside Ukraine. Then we contacted the Red Cross, which is also very active at the present moment inside Ukraine, and we made money transfers to these local volunteers to keep them motivated. Also, because if someone is putting their life on the line trying to get water or food even to these students, they need to have some kind of motivation at least. And of course, we understand that Ukraine being Ukraine, it might not be the best or the richest country. Then of course, I mean, there has to be some kind of motivation. We were trying to help them and they were trying to help us in an exchange. And then of course, with the Red Cross, we coordinated. We went on to the borderline. I mean, the embassy organized also a lot of people with food. There were temples, there were gurudwaras, there were all different kind of volunteers. All the restaurant communities came together cooking food and started supplying food from the border itself. There are supply trucks which were going and which are even today going to different parts inside Ukraine. Some distribution network is working, and with a lot of difficulties, there was food supplied inside Ukraine, especially to, and that was the first sign of hope, that if we can reach Sumy, it means that we have reached the core. And if we can reach the core, it means that we can successfully manage to get the students out. And that was the first day. Like after almost 5 days of struggle, it gave us a little hope and a little smile. And then on the other end, we also understood how the international negotiations were going on. Russia is calling for ceasefire from one side. Ukraine is calling for ceasefire from one side. And there is a disconnect between the two countries, because Russia is not able to accept certain terms of Ukraine, and Ukraine is not able to accept certain terms of Russia. And in the end, we also managed somehow the buses. We organized the buses. We organized the fuel as well to reach these universities to evacuate all the students. And I mean, this is all the students, not just Indian students. It had close to 470 African students as well. These buses managed to reach Sumy along with 590 odd Indian students and 400 plus African students. Altogether, they boarded the bus and a ceasefire was announced. But again, there was a breach on the ceasefire, and the students literally had to vacate the buses, go back into the bunkers, and they were feeling very helpless. They literally gave up hope that if the buses have come and still we have not managed to go out, how would this happen? I mean, this is unbelievable that we are not able to go out. They literally gave up, and they said that probably they will never make out. And then of course we all have to believe that things are still possible and doable, because if one starts to give up, then you will never make it. And this is the toughest time, when one has to believe in themselves, in the team and the others, that we will somehow pull it through. And then of course there was a lot of pressure through everyone. And then finally, the Prime Minister of India also called up the next morning President Zelensky as well as President Putin. And there was this pressure as well that, hey, I mean, there is our people who are stuck over there. Please allow safe passage. I mean, it's our people's life at risk. And I don't want to get into too much of international politics and all, what happened, what not. But finally, the safe passage was agreed. And we were very lucky that the safe passage, which was open only for 5 hours, we already had the buses, we had the fuel and everything organized there on spot. The buses managed to move out of Sumy all the way to Poltava, which is one of the biggest train stations inside Ukraine. And for Poltava, we took the train all the way to Lviv, which is near the Polish border of Ukraine. And from Lviv, all the students were evacuated and taken 90% of them were taken to Przemyśl, which is the Polish side of Ukraine, and the remaining 10% went towards Hungary, the Hungarian border of Ukraine. And that is how the entire event happened and fold of events. But the other unfortunate part is that there was one student who was stuck in Kiev, and this student was also shot 5 times. He sustained 5 bullets, but hats off to his resilience. The student, and we managed to send a Red Cross as well as a doctor in Kiev to pick him up. And among the shelling and everything, the student was transported towards the Polish side. And the Indian government sent a special flight, which was equipped with all the equipments. And this flight was not a normal commercial flight. This was an Indian Air Force flight. And the student was airlifted and taken back to India. And the student is doing great today, and he survives.
Wow. What a story. And all this time you have been there on the ground helping and doing this.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's really wonderful and amazing. But NJ, if you hear that, the question comes up, why is it so difficult? Because Prashant managed Indian students out. Why is it so difficult with the African students? Why are so many of our still groups stuck right now? And other groups did pass the border, but they cannot go anywhere. Why is it so difficult?
Thank you for having me on this. And I just want to say, my good friend and brother Clarence, thank you for really putting your heart out there. And Prashant, such an honor to have known you for a while and to hear the story and what you're doing, what you're going out there. It really moves everybody. I think this is humanity at its best. When it comes to African students, I think it is tough. By the way, if you're watching this right now, you need to really contact Black Foundation, reach out to them, talk to them. Some of them some amazing things that is really going on. The Africans have not been, most African countries have not been well organized to get their students out of Ukraine. They have been challenging. Some countries
one moment, NJ, because the line is a bit bad. I hear some noise, so I cannot hear you. I think other people cannot hear you either. Can you say that again? You were saying, starting again, why it's so difficult for Africans?
What a lot of African countries, let's look at how they organize. They probably don't even have embassies in Ukraine. They probably don't have any kind of diplomatic missions in the country. A lot of African students don't have the access to even any kind of organizations. You hear stories from young kids, whether from 17 to 21, that are living there. Some of them were just refugees or just walking there. And that is really, really difficult. And we have to give a lot of credit to people like Prashant and the organizations that they put at the border. We have really took in African students, to really took in anybody without discrimination. Didn't try to say you black or white or pink, whoever comes in. So all of God's children get a chance to really survive during this time. And I think that speaks to the beauty of the human spirit. Yes, there are issues which we all have been critical of when it comes to how we've treated others. That is different. Right now is to get people out and get them to safety. But also you have to look at visa issues. Most of the African students have not had visa access to maybe either migrate into Schengen countries or other EU countries. That needs to be stopped. That needs to be open. Some who've even had a chance don't even have a chance to maybe get any kind of services or be accepted at homes. It's easy for, I had a friend who said, he said, listen, I'm trying to deal with real problems, but he was willing to accept a Ukrainian student into the house, but wouldn't accept the African student because of their skin color. That's just wrong. That's just wrong. We have to be very honest about it. This is not the time where we have to deal with this. And one of the things I'm so proud of being part of this Black Impact Foundation is that we just believe racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, immigrant bashing, or any kind of bigotry is wrong. You don't go to heaven dealing with all of that. And I think this is really when we have to show a strong sense of humanity. And African students, thanks to Clarence and Prashant, they are moving so fast to galvanize the people, raise money, first to bring those who cannot get into other European countries, bring them home. They're going to find ways with flights and everything. So if you're watching this and you're part of this, contact Black Impact Foundation right on this Instagram. Maybe contact them if you're stuck in Ukraine. They'll find a way for you. Contact them if you know somebody. They'll find a way. This is a time for action. And as long as our governments are not well organized in Africa, it is for all of us, everybody, citizens, step by step. Don't just watch this. Take action. Help other people, because it could be you tomorrow. And this is a time for us to really be that moral communities that solves our own problems.
Thank you, NJ. I see a question a couple of times coming by from Jessim Kandan, and she asked what countries in Africa are mainly talking? All of Africa, or is it where specific students come from?
I will answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
sorry, sorry, Andy, please.
No, you go ahead. You've been on the ground, but from what I know, we have from almost every African country in Ukraine. Big populations out of Nigeria, out of Ghana. You're looking at I mean, Zambia just took in some of its students back. They're a very well organized country. But then you're looking in Northern Africa, looking around Egypt and Morocco. You have students coming out of there, and Kenya as well. But what is even worse is that the countries which have a bigger population, they could easily get organized. But there are countries which very, very little population. Maybe you find a country like Namibia that has just about 20 students in the country, all spread out. So you don't really have a community, and that is very tough. It's very difficult for them. So we have to find ways to reach out. I've had people reach out to me telling me, you know, I got a sister here and I have not been able to see them. So if someone reaches out, please get them to reach out to Black Impact Foundation. They'll find a way for them. If they have to find a home, they'll find a home. If they have to find a way to get them out, they get them out. We just need to save lives right now. This is no time for the blame game. Get these young people out, because we always talk about young people being our future. This is the time for us to invest in that future, get them out of danger, and then we look at the future.
Yeah, if I may jump into that, Barbara, it's also very important. There are many initiatives out there, maybe less without and from an organization standpoint. What we, are aiming to do is to centralize information so we can really be efficient in the efforts, because obviously it's like if we need to talk football just for a second, that if the striker goes to press alone and he doesn't have the whole team with him, then at the end his effort is of course appreciated, but it's not efficient. So we need to really play together. And so all the organizations that maybe are not big enough but are doing amazing things specifically on the ground, or even after they have already evacuated, let's communicate and let's get the data together, because there is a lot to do even when they're out. There's going to be a next struggle that we know. We need to also make sure that the students, don't become victim of a law that is out there today that doesn't allow them to be able to stay in other countries. That doesn't exist. And so we need to really gather the information, work together, and then, push for really a support system for everybody.
Yeah, if I may state that for people that have just turned in, thanks for joining this conversation. The theme is get people of color out of Ukraine. I've seen people saying that's not only for people of color. Why do we talk about Muslims? Or we mean people of color. We actually talk about the people that are not Ukraine citizens, right? That's what we're talking about. That all the people that are students, whether they're from India or from Morocco, whatever color, we share them in one bowl as colored, but that's what we're talking about. I think it's good to state, Clarence, what you mean is for example, right now, Ukrainians coming to Holland, community, you say they live with me, and then they get a status of a refugee, they get healthcare, they can work. No, they don't get a status of a refugee, they get a status of a war victim, and that's a difference. So they're not a refugee. If you're a refugee, you have to wait. You cannot work. You have to go to a refugee center. These people can participate in society. That's what you mean right now, Clarence, right?
Exactly.
Like these from that came for a better life. Because I also heard Ukraine is relatively cheap to study. So these kids are aiming for a better future. Become a doctor, become a scientist.
I will tell you something more, Barbara. We have been, and not me, because when I talk we, there is a team, dedicated team, who is doing 24 hours work, like many other organizations and individuals. I really, you know, it's you know, it warms my heart to see how many people are actually connected to this cause and what is happening in the world. It's much more than we might believe and see. But the thing here is that we have a situation where students, when they come out of Ukraine, they rather stay actually in Ukraine than go back to their country.
Yeah.
Because they already escaped from a situation that was life-threatening, and studying for them was the way out. So imagine what those parents or family or friends have done for them to go out and study in a country where it was affordable for them to go, but they have 5 years of medicine or whatever they were studying, and now all of that is gone in a second. And then we are saying now that the law is stating that once the students are out, they will have to go back either to the country, or they need to subscribe for what is the asielzoekers. I don't know what's in English, but that status means that practically they're not a victim of war. How are they not going to be a victim of war? Everybody is a victim of war. Even those who are not in Ukraine are a victim of war. There are people now in certain countries in the world that the effect of this war is felt directly, because certain supplies are not coming in anymore. So, I mean, everybody is involved. This is a global thing. And that's why it's important that we also act. And I really hope that the European countries will act the way it should.
Prashant, I heard Sweden, it's different, right, from other European countries. Is that correct?
I mean, to be very honest, I haven't experienced much about different European countries, but only I can speak about Sweden. Sweden is a country with a big heart, and definitely Sweden doesn't discriminate. I haven't seen discrimination over here happen in whatsoever. I'm a person of color as well. When I came to the country till date, I mean, even when I see refugees coming in, whether they are coming from Somalia, they are coming from Uganda, they are coming from any part of the world, they have always been welcome over here. And today, when you look at the Swedish representation, it is not just native Swedes. You will see people from Africa, you will see people from India, you will see people from other parts of Asia. It comprises of all, and Sweden has always well-treated people equally, irrespective of what race they belong to or what color of skin they have. Sweden values inhumanity more than the color of skin.
Prashant, I do believe, and I think, Clarence, we can also state that most Western European countries are just like Sweden. What I mean is that there is, let's say, Clarence, I don't know how to say it, but some kind of bug in the law where in Holland or other countries they cannot go, but in Sweden at this point also they can go, right? So the African students, they can go to Sweden, is that correct? And they can work and get medical treatment, is that correct right now? So it's different than other European Union countries?
The law in European Union is same. You know, as far as work is concerned, you know, even if it's a native Ukrainian coming, they cannot work in any of the European countries till they have got enrolled into the system, and you get this right to work only after 90 days of the enrollment. But under the EU preventive law, you have the right to free housing, you have the right to free social money, which is given to take care of you in these crises. And of course, any country, whether it is Sweden, Germany, Poland, any country will require at least that much time to first understand and settle in the system. And even if you're not a war asylum, and if you're just moving completely to a new country just as an asylum or as a refugee, every system demands you to have at least a 60-day, 90-day probation before you actually start to work. But that doesn't mean that the government or the society doesn't take care of you. The government is providing you free housing. The government is providing you almost free food. And on top of that, paying you money to take care of yourself.
Yeah, but then Barbara, that is the law. Then the next step is how is this law implemented? Because I'm sure even in Ukraine, you know, from top down, nobody's saying to send people back when they are on a border or to not get them on the train. So it's individuals at the end that are implementing these laws or not. And unfortunately, in many European countries, the law is not properly implemented. So this is what we need to do in terms of creating this accountability and start watching what is happening and make sure that the people are aware of what is happening. There's not the same treatment for everybody, which is wrong. Simply doesn't matter. I don't want to even differentiate or give it a label. Everybody that comes out of this situation should have the same treatment. And some of the things that we know now, that is a law that is actually blocking for students to be able to continue their process. We have spoken with some people from Ireland. Ireland has opened up their doors for conversation, like Sweden, to get students in so they could continue their study. I'm sure there are many other countries who could do the same. So we know already from Sweden. This is some of the things that we are active about as well. Because if we look at the broader picture, the students abroad from anywhere in the world generally go there to get knowledge and bring that knowledge back to their home, right? And eventually create a better life for the next generation to come. So if we talk about 80,000 students that were, I think, rescued last week, Prashant, wasn't it? Last week, yeah?
Last week, the total number rescued was close to 40,000. 40,000 students in total, from all 5 neighboring countries, which includes Poland. Poland has the maximum numbers, which were rescued from Poland. Then second, followed by Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. These are the countries, and of course, few went to Moldavia as well.
So they went back home. But then the others are still here, and then it's what are we going to do with them? And this is part of the process, and that's why we need to create that awareness and see how, you know, certain laws can be updated to a situation that nobody, of course, can predict. But now we have this, and we need to act fast, because every day that passes, the thing you don't want to kill is hope for these youngsters, you know.
Absolutely. And Barbara, one thing which I would just like to add to what Brother Clarence is saying, that I mean, we first need to just look what the subject is. Get people of color out of Ukraine. You know, one of the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest problem, like even when we heard the news for the first time, was when a number of students went to the border. They were not allowed to cross the border into Poland. They were not allowed to cross the border into Hungary. You know, they were suffering in the cold out there when it is snowing. It is -5, it is -10 degrees, you know, and these students were treated differently. There are students who are not given any place. I mean, as Clarence rightly said, on the trains or many other places, you know. I mean, they are being targeted, and that is something which should stop. I'm sure that the European Union and many others have taken this up, But unfortunately, there are still, as we are speaking today, there are still students. In Kherson itself, we have a report, there are 84 students. And all these 84 students are from different parts of Africa. The maximum number in this list is from Cameroon, followed by Tanzania, Benin, Nigeria still, Ghana has, there are a few Ghanaians as well. There are so many of these students who are still stuck there. They need to be rescued. There are approximately 15 to 18 Indian students also who are still stuck. They need to be rescued. So the rescue mission is not fully over. So this is one problem. And then the other problem is, of course, the students who have come out, as Clarence rightly said, that many of them came with a hope, with a dream, you know, probably their parents invested entire life savings, you know, their generations of savings on the tuition fee of this kid, that my kid will become a doctor and come back home and take care of entire generation. But that dream is somewhere shattered. You know, these students are stuck. They don't have a place to stay. They are like jumping from shelter to shelter every day. They don't have food to eat. They don't have water to drink, you know. I mean, so the effort through Black Impact Foundation is also to ensure that these people are given these basic amenities, and we become their voice jointly.
Yeah, and to sorry, Barbara. It's just we're filling each other in, because the flow of information, and that is why it's so important that we have that community going on to get the information in. There is an organization named Black Women for Black Lives. It's exactly about these students that are blocked in Kherson, and there's like 25 families. We have a lot of students there, like 80 plus students are still there stuck, and they are on the ground as we speak now. And Patrick Kluivert with his wife are very active with this group and with this organization to get them out. So, and that is the collaboration. So we are already preparing for when they're out, how we can then support them once they're out. So this is the type of collaboration that we're looking for as Black Impact Foundation, because there are a lot of people, you know, out there doing things, organizations, and the more we can communicate, the more information we have, the more we can support each other.
Is it correct, Prashant and NJ? I heard from Patrick Kluivert wife that they said we need ambulances, because with ambulances we can go in and pick up those students from Kherson. Because I see Jürgen Reimann asking, Yassim asking, what can we do? What can we do for the Black Impact Foundation? Is that a concrete thing which you say, if we know people that have ambulances, old ambulances, is that something that could help?
I mean, to be honest, yes. I mean, providing a couple of ambulances would be a good solution, but then the biggest challenge arises on the humanitarian corridor. You know, today you cannot send a fuel tank inside. You know, as I said right in the beginning of this of our live session, that the biggest challenge inside Ukraine is the mobility. You know. How the vehicles can move. There is no fuel inside. There is no petrol. There is no diesel inside, you know. So the only option left with people is to go by walking, which is the most dangerous. And even if the ambulances are there, we need to make sure that there is enough fuel supply, which is going inside Ukraine. I mean, Poland has literally parked like hundreds of fuel tanks on the border side. Poland has provided such big support to Ukraine in this crisis. Poland is literally giving 24/7 service and doing everything from their side, but they are not able to get inside Ukraine and deliver these things. You know, I mean, there is army on the Polish border as well, but their hands are tied. They cannot go in and rescue people and come out because there is no ceasefire, and if there is ceasefire, there are terms which are not met on both sides. So we are dealing with a very different monster in itself. You know. So there are many nitty-gritties into it. I mean, all the African countries need to come together, put one voice together with the UN or with somebody, and speak to both sides' leader and let them know that, hey, our people are in there. We need to get out our people as well. give us a humanitarian corridor, and after that, okay. I mean, nobody wants war, but if I mean, if like I don't even want to comment, but if some brainless people still want to continue to fight, you know, we can always try to stop them, but not at the cost of innocent lives, you know.
Injay, what Pam just said, all the African countries should unite, have one voice, to get together to get them out. Is that going on right now? Is that possible? And what can you do about that? What can we do about that?
I can't speak for all the African countries, but what I do know is that the African Union has been very vocal about this, but I think being vocal is not enough. I think actually putting action towards it's really, really what everyday Africans want at this moment. They want to see the Ukrainian authorities let the young men and women to get either into Hungary or get into either into Poland so they can get rescued. I think Clarence mentioned something.
Yes, something. You mentioned Shevchenko in this matter, and he was important to you, Prashant, right? He also got you in contact. Clarence, do you think there's also we have such great African soccer players right now and also from the past. Is there something you all think they can do if they unite, like you are now?
Of course.
Yeah?
No, 100%, Barbara. And as I said, it's not only, you know, Black people. Black Impact Foundation is for everybody. And but we have a focus. We have a focus. And so, of course, I'm reaching out to my former colleagues, but we have only 24 hours in a day, unfortunately. And they're all very, very busy. And they're all doing something already related with what is going on. But for sure, we're going to push, and you're going to hear more about it, because unfortunately, you know, not seeing the end very near, we need to prepare for a long stretch and for a marathon. And in order to do that, we need to have voices coming out. Just to touch on Africa, I mean, the African Union exists already. So there is a union. And so for me, it should not be difficult to get into action. The relationships are in place. UN, of course, has an open ear, and you can call them anytime. I think the urgency is not really clear. I think that the information flow on what is happening, that is what we need, because unfortunately, the international press is not giving enough, let's say, of the footage, which is understandable, because if you look at the whole picture, there are millions and millions of Ukrainian people. It's a country of 40 million people. So within that, it's a drop, right? To have 80,000, 30,000, 40,000 Africans and Indians that were there from other countries as well in Asia. You know, we have seen even a lot of Muslims that were treated the same way. So the whole thing is that the organization, the countries of certain groups were more organized. But now that we know that this is still happening, we need to see some more urgent actions from the entities and institutions in Africa to make it happen and to really get to action. Yeah. And another thing, sorry to finish this, is that we know by fact that in Europe, for example, even if some countries would like to go in and take people out, they cannot. They cannot by law. So it has to be particular private entities who will take those actions. But that is the type of collaboration that we're looking for. So let's take Sweden as an example, or Holland as an example. The Netherlands might not be able to go in, but we can do that. Our organization can do that. We bring those people that we have to Holland, to the Netherlands, and then the government can take over. Then they can give them the support that is needed. So we need to get in a place where we have multiple countries wanting to do the same, getting into a certain agreement that we are guaranteeing, you know, for a certain amount of people that it can come in, whether are the students or some other families, you know, and that can be hosted in the proper way.
I do want to state, though, that there was supposed to be also tonight a student that made this whole journey. And I read well, he's in Holland now, and someone is helping him, and read the story about how their dream was the day after he paid all his tuition fees, that the war started, that he tried to flee, that they couldn't leave. They had to walk, they were out on the, they were freezing. And they were stopped. They were stopped in Poland. This horrible trip. It took them days. They were in hotels. They were not allowed to eat at the breakfast after. Yeah, the had, and in the end, they're here now. And the sad thing is, they were not going to go on, but they're not going on because they're afraid. They're afraid that they cannot stay in Holland. So that's the strange situation. Clarence, before we wrap up with the most important things, you're a man with a lot of connections. I assume you also speak to political figures, at least in our country. Do you think we can expect some change in the laws that we've been talking about, so that we can also take in these students?
Yeah, so I mean, if I need to have make a call for action for the Dutch government, it's really to put pressure on the European, lawmakers, and to make it clear, because only that change would give so much hope to the students. Because this is something we can go out and communicate to them, that they have, the possibility to continue their study, which is incredible. We have been speaking with some of them who actually were saved and are now in Poland or in Hungary. One is in Hungary, and we asked, how are you? What can we do for you? And then the response was, we want to make sure we can continue to study. I mean, one would think, I want to see my family. I want to. No, they are so committed to their future. So this is the drive that we have, and to keep their dreams alive as well. So I believe that the Netherlands has a lot of influence. We have great institutions like Sweden, and I believe that if we can come together to show once more, that the Netherlands can be an example to make some changes happen, to facilitate certain things that are needed now, because nobody can prepare for something that is happening now. It was not to be foreseen, right? But now that it is happening and we have the information of what is needed, we want to see the flexibility and also the commitment. This is all our problems. It's not just a problem of a small group.
Yeah, and we have to admit, right, that Clarence, all Western Europe should be standing this the same. Like you said, Prashant, but also Holland, Germany, they're not countries where we judge upon, right, on your color or your background. So it's
we shouldn't, Barbara, but it still happens, even in these countries that we mentioned.
By law, we're not allowed to, so we should be able to.
Yeah.
Right, Clarence, or not?
No, we should be able. It's even not being should be able. I mean, we know that these countries are able, but we need to get to a point where we really see each other as equal, where we look at the people as human beings rather than classifying them all the time. There's no time during war, less during war, but there's no time in life actually to continue to classify people and put them in a box. We have a moment, an opportunity here to come together, and let's speak as we are asking the African countries to come together. The same thing here for the European community and the European politicians to really make fast decisions on something that is very clear what needs to happen. There's no rocket science.
Yeah. If I sum it up, I think it's important that we keep spreading the word. We keep spreading the word of these students that are still there. That we keep spreading the words of the students that got out but are stuck on the borders. That we keep spreading the word of students that went to other countries but are like the ones that wrote a letter to us, that are afraid. So let's promise, and everybody who's listening here, let's do that. The other thing that you've been mentioning so often, Clarence, let's call for equal rights in European countries. Sweden, as an example, NJ, like you said, let's try also work together as the African countries. And it's also very important, you keep stating that they get support and that we help them because they have nothing. They're out of food, and there's nothing there. And give them a future perspectives. Like you said, right out of the war, what do you want to do to study? So that, you know, universities all over the world, they can also contribute. They can also say, let's take these students in. That's the same, I think, that counts for them. Money, I think that is always needed. I hear you all not talking about that, and I think that's a good thing, but I do want to state it. To do all this work, no, right? To do all this work, we need money to provide food, medical supplies. Where can people donate?
You know, Ms. Burns, I think I'm a capitalist, and nobody has ever accused me of not being one. But I think this is a time when every good God-fearing capitalist should go out there, look at those community groups, like Prashant's groups, like the Black Impact Foundation, and any other community groups that are really doing their best to help out. Let's not just talk. Let's just not use words. Let us write a check. It doesn't matter if it's $1, €1, 1 penny. Any penny helps right now. Go out there. You can do it. You go out there and buy phone credit. And I'm speaking to everybody in Africa. You go out there and do your mobile money and you buy phone credits and everything. You could get, as long as you can be on Instagram, you can connect and you can support in any little way. It will go a big way to support this. And this is really what we need right now. You might not have the feet to march right to the border. You might not have the big name of Clarence or the big heart of Prashant, but you might have an ability to get on social media and spread the message. You might have an ability to just do $1 or $100. Some of you might do $1 million. Just do it and really, really help. This is a time. This is the moment, and let's not lose it.
Yeah, and they can make those donations on the website of Black Impact Foundation. And, you know, this is really a time for our people as well to come together. This is the aim. This is the mission. We have a lot of people that have the means to make a difference. So let's not just wait for help from the outside. We can support each other. And, you know, it's going to happen. And it's happening, by the way, because ever since we started, since yesterday, we have got a lot of support and a lot of donations. So let's continue, because this is only the beginning of a long stretch for those survivors from this war.
Yeah. I also hear some comments, people asking where to make the donations, what is the link. As Clarence just said, please go to Black Impact Foundation's website and you can make the donations there. There is all the details there, how you can contribute. Even, I mean, we don't mind if you are not there with me on the ground in Poland to help, to mobilize things. But wherever you are, whichever corner of the world you're sitting, you can still make an impact. And that impact, you can just go on to make that impact, go on to Black Impact Foundation website and make the donation.
Yeah, and like we did
about money on Saturday in Johannesburg. If you come, if you want, you ping me, I'll get you to my home. I'll give you a beer. And if you donate a lot more money, I'll make sure they get that. So come ping me on Instagram and I'll get everybody together in Johannesburg and we're going to raise money for this. I think this is time for us as Africans to really do something. So I don't know what my wife is going to say, but we're going to open the house for a big old party on Saturday for this.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely. And if your brother or your sister, anybody is there in Ukraine, and if they have come out, especially from the Polish side, and they're in Poland, we will share my Polish number through Black Impact Foundation's website. They can get in touch with me personally. There is a team of volunteers over there. If they have any problems getting temporary shelter, accommodation, food, I will make sure personally that they are fed and they are taken care.
Okay. Prashant, I wish you all the best. You are just one day at home and tomorrow you go back again?
Yes, I'm flying tomorrow early morning, 8 a.m. back to Poland.
Thank you so much all for being here. Let's also promise that we're going to continue these stories, Clarence, on this account as long as needed, with different people, because Patricia, she couldn't join us tonight. Students, Patrick and Rosanna, they were actually having, Patrick Kluivert and his wife were actually having a call right now about necessities getting them in to the Ukraine, but let's promise that we keep this alive.
Yeah, for example, sorry, Barbara, for example, because I spoke before with Rosanna and, you know, there's a need of psychologists or, you know, people who can support them from a mental point of view, life coaches who can keep their, you know, their survival mode in a proper, with the proper energy. They have this need as well. So one of the things that we're going to work on later tonight is to start gathering a group of those type of specialists that we can then put in touch with the students as well. This is a mental thing, so we definitely need to take care of them while they're still stuck, and once they're out, of course, there's going to be an ongoing process.
I think that's also very good and important that you state that, to get there, well, because I believe the hopes are gone from those students still stuck there, and we need to try to get it up again. Thank you all so much, and let's end that. We really all hope that this war is going to end soon, and that everybody will live in peace again. But as long as that's not the case, that we can all help as much as possible. I want to thank you all from all over the world. And all the best, Prashant, tomorrow when you go back. And thank you. And thank you for looking tonight at this session. And I hope you keep following this account. And Clarence, you will always follow also your accounts to see when we're going to have next sessions or when we have things that we need. I assume you are going to be a spokesperson also for this. So thank you very much.
Yeah, 100%. But what we need is to have more. I saw Jürgen Reimann, you know, is there, and we need to activate all the people that have a large reach and spread the news, not only here in Europe, but globally. This is a global thing.
And not only people of color, as I might add. I'm not
that's
color,
that's why you're our moderator here. Yeah. Just to make the point very clear.
Yes.
Don't worry, we are.
And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Barbara, for your support. And let's keep on doing this and make sure that people know about what is happening.
Okay, thank you very much, and everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.